Welcome to the Bodybuilding Banter podcast, your number one source of all things bodybuilding. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on future episodes. Now, here's your host, Leroy Rollins.
Okay, people, welcome to the podcast. It's been a little bit of time since the three of us have hopped on together, so let's do a quick little update. Dan, what's new? What's exciting? How's things?
I hate food and I have a lot to eat, so that's about where I'm at.
Good.
But we press on.
Are you training at home still full time?
I am, yes. Yes. I don't know if I'm at the point where I don't even know if I'll go back to the gym or not. I like my setup. I've got a lot of stuff. So
how's that free motion cable unit you got?
It's moving like butter. I had to make some adjustments to it the other day, but honestly, it was just all that I needed was a little bit of WD-40, and it's moving like butter. It's amazing.
Moving like
nice.
that kind of condiment. Good stuff.
I'm sure yours is nice too. You've got a nice piece.
Buddy.
You've got like the little four-way.
Yeah, it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. It's built this.
Yeah, I think it was a good move for you.
Oh man,
I'm very jealous of it.
It's so sick. Like I'm not even gonna lie and say it's like okay, because it's not. It's awesome. So we just built like the leg press yesterday, the one that I had sent you, Dan, that I need to mod
leg press hack. Did you figure that out? Did you get your welder buddy?
No, that'll be like next spring's project, I think, to get it all dolled up the way I want it. Like it's actually a deceivingly nice leg press for being like modded and welded together. It's super smooth, and it like the angle that you can get the seat. Like I can get super good range in it, and like really
that's clutch.
Quads. So it's really nice. I'm getting some mirrors on Sunday to do the one wall. I got 2 4x4 mirrors, so I'll have a 4x8 stretch. And then I just need to really kind of finish the flooring, and then like technically it'll be like all done.
What are you gonna do for the flooring? You gonna do horse stall mats or?
Yeah, so I bought 4 of them when we first got all the equipment, because once that big cable machine that you were talking about earlier, once it was up, it wasn't moving. Yeah. It's like, I think total stack was like just under 1,000, and then plus the weight of the machine once you added up all the poundage. So once we got it wasn't moving. So I got 4 mats, and yeah, they're just horse stall mats. There's a place locally that sells them like $50 a piece. So
yeah, for the price, they're so nice. They're heavy too. They're heavy duty.
Yeah, they were 100 pounds. She said they were 100 pounds, 4x6.
Damn.
Yeah.
So, that's what I built my platform out of.
Yep. So I'm gonna get that done, and then like I need more dumbbells. Like that's kind of the biggest, I guess, issue right now. I have 5s, 10s, 20s, 40s, 90s, and then up 90 to 105 because I was able to get those at that gym that closed. But I'd like to get, even if I could get like 50s and 30s, just to have those last 2 would be okay. But between everything else, like I don't really need anything.
Have you thought about trying to snag a pair of Olympic dumbbell handles to get you over for now?
I just don't want a bunch of shit laying around. I don't have a lot of space as it is. So
yeah, well, the dumbbell handles don't take up much space. They might be able to get you somewhere.
Like more plates laying around and stuff. You know, I just didn't want to I don't know.
Okay.
I guess it would work, but I'd rather just find reasons.
Oh yeah, you'd rather find some dumbbells.
Yeah. So, but yeah. Yeah, other than that, now we got work to do for the next 2 years.
Yeah, you've got it's a constant project though. It's a lot of fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a kid. Like I'm like last night we finished painting everything. We painted like the beam in the middle on the ceiling, and then we're gonna paint around the lights. And I'm trying to find someone who can spray paint to do like some like Arnold and like Phil Heath and stuff on the one wall.
That would be
just sweet, but. I don't want someone that's like okay at it. I want it to be good. I don't want it to pop. Yeah, I don't want that. So I'm not in any rush to do that. I'll just kind of play around with it, and I think I've spent enough this year, so I think we might wait.
It's worth it though. Speaking of Phil, did you see the big announcement?
Oh, buddy, I'm so stoked.
Wait, someone fill me in. I have been busy. I have not seen it.
Phil, he
What's up?
Was it
is
today or
going to
yesterday?
Olympia,
Yeah?
making the
Yeah,
triumphant
Phil's-
return, going for number 8.
Okay.
And it's gonna be interesting because right now, anyways, it doesn't sound like any international competitors are gonna be able to go. So that takes out William Bonac, takes out Big Ramy, takes out Rolly Winkler, Hottie. So the top
Hottie,
3
yeah.
last year, you only have Brandon. So right now, you have Brandon, you have Phil, Hunter. I think Cedric is qualified, but I could be wrong. Regan's qualified on points. So it's like, it's pretty wide. Like, Phil's going to take it. Like, if Phil comes on point, it's his.
Yeah,
But,
Phil
like,
comes in. Yeah, I think he's going to win. Although Brandon Curry he's no slouch.
Yeah, but Phil on point always wins.
Yeah, that's true.
the only real wild card, too, is Flex Lewis making the jump.
I was going to say,
That is true.
Flex is going to be
Flex could-
interesting.
He's
His
not going to beat
proportions
Phil,
are like too good.
He
But-
comes in shape every show, man.
but Flex could beat Brandon. And then I think Hunter with this year's lineup is top 6. I really do. I think he looked unreal.
Oh, he looked disgusting at the Tampa Pro.
It was so
Like,
cool.
Just everywhere. Like, just complete. That was really cool to see.
James, what's new, man?
Oh, I have just been getting slammed. Like I got up and did work before work at 5 a.m. and I just before this podcast got back home. I went from work,
Me too.
trained a person
Yep.
on the podcast, and I have a business call tonight. Like I haven't stopped moving this entire week, and it's cool because like things are growing. But like I also need some time to just sit.
You're sitting down, bro.
Yeah. No, I hired like a business coach to help me set up some extra programs and things I want to do. And there might be an announcement in the next couple of weeks. That's what this business call tonight's
James is
about.
doing
But I'm
the
not going to.
Olympia.
Yeah.
Making moves.
But no, I don't want to announce anything just yet. And that announcement would be pretty big and pretty exciting. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers that things go well with that. So that's secret for now.
Stuff, man.
But yeah, business is just booming right now. Like I think I have like 10 or 12 new clients in the last month.
Wow.
I've had like 4 this month, and it's the 7th. Like
Yep.
things are taking off to the point where like I'm not sleeping really.
Ariel's helped you a lot on that end, right?
Ariel's huge. Yeah, bringing her on a couple months ago has been huge for helping me stay on top of the social media and like reaching out to people. All the things I wanted to do and just like physically didn't have
Power
the
of
time to
social
do.
media.
Yeah, well, like I know all these things business-wise that you should do for like retention and like growing, and I just would get home at 9 at night and be like, all right, I got to go work out for 2 hours, so it's now 11, and it's like I'm not doing any of that. I'm going to bed.
Yeah, it's like you gotta go to bed. Yeah.
So yeah, bringing on some help. That is the good stuff. Yeah, but unlike Dan, I'm actually having to pull back my calories a bit because I got a bit sloppy there for a bit.
You were looking good too. What the hell?
Well, so I was looking good because I was going to compete, and then as soon as that didn't, we were like, yeah, let's gain. Not gain intentionally, but it kind of like allowed me a little bit of slack because I've been dealing with so much extra stuff where the nutrition just kind of got pushed to the side a bit. So I'm back up to 200, but I'm holding that 200 pretty well now. So I've kind of like kicked myself in the ass and been like, you're not going to get fat again. I had a week vacation last week where I shut everything off, like got off social media, drank my face off a bit, and now I'm good. So
Good.
I'm back in the saddle.
All right, so let's get into the subject that we decided on 5 minutes ago.
Which one?
Yeah, there were 2.
Since technically we're all in the off season now, which I think is the first time the 3 of us have lined that up, mostly because of me.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're all in the off season game now, so I thought it'd be kind of cool to kind of share everybody's opinion on how to maximize it, how to spend your off season time intelligently. For myself, this is my first actual extensive off season. So right now with Cliff, we're just doing like video check-ins like every 6 to 8 weeks kind of deal. And when we first started prep, it was basically like, okay, like we're going into prep. There's no time to really have extensive conversations. This is what we're doing. Let's go. So he really didn't know a whole lot of like backstory on like my competitive history and like all that kind of stuff. So over the video call, I told him that, so I've been competing since 2015. I would have been 21, 26 now. In that time, from 2015 to now, this would have been, I think, show number 9 or 10 had I competed this year. I'd have to check. That's exactly what he said. And in that time, you do the math, that's a lot of competing with very little downtime. And I told him that I think the longest stretch I'd had between finishing a prep or finishing a show and starting a new prep was like 9 or 8 months. And that was this last quote unquote off season between spring 2019 to when I started prep November 2019 for this season. And he was like, okay, that's a lot. You need a break. I think this next, we project maybe 16 to 18 months off season, depending on when we choose to compete in 2022. And he was like, I think this is exactly what you need. You're right on that cusp of like, making the next leap in your physique. And I think if you really do this properly, that you can do that. So yeah, that's kind of my history with the off season. And I really haven't had much of one.
I agree. I think you'll be able to make some huge leaps.
Yeah.
Especially if you're structured in general too, but if you can really hold some good structure and live in, almost,
the bodybuilder life.
Treat it as seriously as you do a prep, you'll grow a lot.
Yeah.
You'll grow a lot.
He basically said that I asked, I was like, well, what's like area of focus? What do I need to work on? If I'm spending 18 months, what's that focus? And he basically said like the back of your body can be brought up as a whole. He's like your front shots, like you have very like round muscle bellies, you good symmetry, all that kind of stuff, good shape. He's like, I think the back of your body, just really bringing that like thickness and density up, which is stuff like even the three of us have talked about. Like when we talk about what needs work, it's my back, it's those poses. So he agreed, which is again nothing surprising. So that's the main focus. So right now I'm doing like chest is on like maintenance, obviously, just very, very like 6 to 8 sets a week kind of deal.
Yeah, my chest is maintenance too. Yeah,
shoulders.
We're getting into the other topic.
yeah. Shoulders are kind of like a moderate amount of volume, but then back is hit twice a week with like it's super like old school kind of mentality, but like a width day and a thickness day. But that's something that I think we're going to run with for a bit.
So you bias horizontal pulling on one day and bias vertical on the other?
Yeah, like I'm doing like, I would say I did like 5 movements. One day would be like 4 to 1. One day would be like 4 to 1, just the other, line of pull basically. And then 2 leg days per usual. And then potentially on rest day and arm day. But that's totally based on recovery. I was going to, like today's a rest day, and after legs yesterday, I was like, fuck no. Not happening. So that's where I'm at. He said weight-wise, probably get up to like mid 180s. It's interesting because I talked to him about like, you guys would obviously see this online too, the idea of like pushing your body weight up and really like seeing the scale go up and all that kind of stuff. And I said, like, from your experience, what's the validity in that? Like, do you think there's really a reason to get 30, 40 pounds over stage weight? Because when I started prep at 192, he projected me like late 140s. Like that was going to be a 40, 45 pound diet, right? Which is a lot, being only 5'7",
that's a
right?
lot.
And he's like, everybody's independent, like very different, right? Like some guys can walk around 20 pounds over. Some guys walk around 30, 35 pounds over. It's very individual. But one thing he did say was that as you get older, the need to get heavier over stage weight seems to decrease, which we see, right? We see a lot of top pros, they're like 10 pounds over stage weight, and they seem to be like lean all year round, and they just get extra lean for a show, right? So he said that like it all depends on how you're feeling and how you're looking. He's like, when you get to that off-season point where you're kind of feeling shitty, he's like, you might be a little too far, like pull back a little bit. But he said that say by next spring, if I'm like 180 to 185, like comfortably, do a little mini cut and tidy up, and then finish gaining the rest.
Yeah, run into your prep.
Yeah. He wants to do the prep basically in 2 halves, like 2 portions.
That's kind of my plan as well.
Yeah, like we were thinking, like do like say I'm like 180 at the start of prep, get down to 160, hold that for 6 to 8 weeks, and then finish the prep, which is interesting. I've never done that before, so that'll be cool. But we haven't, like, obviously it's way far away now, but whether it's a spring 2022 and I go down to upstate New York again and do like an OCB, the IMBF again. Maybe he even said ICN. He'd like to, or no, not what's the other one? IPE.
IPE.
He said he'd like to see me there. But then potentially like fall 2022, depending on what shows we end up doing, it'll all dictate when we start prep. So yeah, that's where I'm at. All kinds of excitement.
Yeah, but you've got time to move your weight up though. Right now, though, it's not like you need to be tidy anytime soon. So
no, I don't know how I off season in the past is very much like intuitive eating and like just progressively like throwing calories up. Like I'm still under 170. I checked the other morning, I was like 167. So, and I bumped up. We were on like 2,200 calories and I'm up to 25, 26. But I'm also like, if I want to eat something, I'll go eat it and not ever think about it. So I'm more so going to focus on like the gym and really hit some PRs over these next 18 months, hopefully, and see what we can do.
Yeah, I think I have a different approach. I tend to like to structure things in the off season. Like if I were intuitively eating, I would massively undereat right now.
Don't get like when I say that, like that's a very like loose term. Like I eat meal 1 to 5 the same every day, and then
I see what you mean.
Yeah, dinner might be like, now that I'm not prepping. Like last night, she was like, "What do you want?" Like we have like a roasted ham we could do, or we could do chicken legs or something like that. And I was like, "Oh, let's do ham, right?" So like ham, I literally just eyeballed it, probably 5 ounces. Then we had potatoes and vegetables, and then she made like little cookie things for dessert. So I had a couple of them, right? Like it's very, that would be as probably intuitive as it gets, 1 meal a day.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's a little different because I'm pretty, my like meals around training are generally the same, but I like a little bit of flexibility just first off, because I like a lot of foods, like, and especially like now in the summer, like all these different fruits and stuff are in season, like peaches and melons and blueberries and strawberries and all that stuff. So I like all that stuff, but also I think it helps me to be able to get down the food that I need to. Just because there's like if you've noticed, I'll like run with foods for like a few weeks and then get sick of them and then rotate them out because I'm just like, I don't like eating this anymore. So it's like, okay, now I like eating this. Yep. So it just kind of helps me to not hate eating too much.
Well, something I noticed with yours, Dan, is, and I kind of laugh at it every time I see your stories, but it seems like your food choices are very like piecemeal. And I don't know, and it's never like a massive serving of one thing. It'll be like you have your gummy bears or your whatever you have, and then like crackers and cheese, and then like a lot of small things that are caloric dense, which helps you get the calories down without you having, like, the worst thing for me was when I was peak bulking, getting this like massive bowl of like 2 cups of oats with like honey on it, and just like trying to force that down was the worst. It took like 45 minutes, and I never wanted to eat it, so I was always under eating.
It can be difficult. I do piecemeal it a little bit, mostly because like I do have that flexibility, but I still kind of put meals together the same way. Like, okay, I have my protein, I have my carbohydrate, and then I have my fruit or vegetable. That's like, except for my like last meal, which is just like, okay, let's just finish it off because I've eaten plenty of fruits and vegetables. Not as much vegetables right now, but enough fruit. The amount of fruit I go through in a day is like disgusting. Like I'll take like a huge like melon, like twice the size of my head, and it'll take me like 5 days to eat it by myself. So
I definitely need to be a little bit more structured myself. Like with work and everything, I'm always waking up late and then like scrambling. And it's really just like, all right, how many calories can I get in throughout the workday so I don't have to eat like 1,500 calories as my last meal? And I'm doing like, I don't know if you followed like the post that I put up a couple weeks ago, that like fried rice that I've been making. I'm getting like,
with the egg?
Yeah, like 400 grams of rice and then doing like 5 or 6 eggs in it and then like 2 cans of tuna. And I'll just split that into like 2 meals, and that's 2 of my meals because I don't have to think about it. But like what I'm doing is I'll just make like something massive that I know is like smart food, and then I'll like retroactively track it when I get back from work and be like, all right, what do I have to eat now? Which is not the greatest way to do it, but I just don't have time right now. So
yes. So your situation's trickier than mine, James, because I honestly pretty much live in a bubble. Like I live in like a perfect little bodybuilding bubble where I like have everything like perfectly set up, pretty low stress. Like it's kind of easier for me because I don't get behind on stuff. I mean, I always have stuff to do. I'm always busy, but like I'm not, I'm sleeping still 9 hours a night and I live in a bubble. So
it's something that me and Brett kind of laugh about a little bit. The saying that a lot of bodybuilders use, and I'm not pointing any person out, like ticking boxes. Like all you got to do is tick the boxes. We laugh because like my boxes, like it's not a thing. It's just, you know that meme where like the dog's sitting at the table and everything's on fire, and he's like, "This is fine." That's me. Like there's no boxes. I'm just like that constant avalanche of disaster, and somehow I make it through it.
So are you still spring next year?
That's the goal. That is the goal. We haven't really hit a deadline of when prep starts. We know the goal right now is for me to hover around this 200 pound. If I get a little bit too loose, we'll do a little mini cut if need be. I'm just really trying to focus on getting back into lifting intensely. Just with how busy I've been, my lifting's taken almost a back seat, I'd say. Right now I'm down to 4 days a week, and for a couple of weeks I was only lifting 3 days a week, just because I could not fit it in. And that's me saying that. And I went to the gym last night at 8:30 at night and lifted till 11:30. So if I can't get it in, there's no time.
You've got other priorities, so that's just,
So,
and I think that's important. An important consideration just with off season. Like, what do you want to prioritize in the off season? Do you want to quote unquote enjoy life, or do you want to focus on growing your business when you're not prepping, or do you want to kind of just do the bodybuilding thing? It's kind of a person by person decision to make. There's no, I guess, one size fits all for an off season. I don't think, but
so for you, Dan,
I think being adaptable is huge. If you took like the first part of this off season for me before I decided to compete and then not compete because COVID, I was doing everything the bodybuilder way, but I was also playing rugby, which helped me because I was staying a little bit more conditioned. But then that was the focus. I was doing that, and then now things have shifted, and I'm now focused on the business and the career, and I'm doing a lot of academic stuff and all that stuff. So it's just it's kind of a balance. If you go too far one way, the other suffers, and then you have to kind of bring it back, and normally it tips the other way.
I think it comes down to like what your goal is, right? Like at the end of the day, whether you want to grow your business, whether you want to I'm very focused on turning pro. Like that is a very much like forefront of my brain a lot. So, whether that be not pursuing business as much as maybe you are, right? Like I'm very much at a point where business is now like, okay, I think the workload is plenty busy enough anymore, and it might start taking away, which is not something I'm willing to do right now anyways. So it's very, like Dan said, it's very individual, right? Very.
Yeah, and Leroy, I find myself pretty similar to you. Like I'm in a pretty stable situation. I'd like to shift some things in the way that, like business wise, but I'm pretty comfortable like where I'm at with most things in general. Like I'm not under like financial stress or not saying you are, James, but like you're trying to really aggressively grow your business. But
well, COVID definitely shook things up a bit. I mean, there was a very real risk of losing my job there for a bit, and we have a baby on the way and just bought a house. So it's like, you've got a wife and you've got a baby. Yeah, it's like that can't happen. So now I'm taking it into my own hands. I can't lose a job if I'm the one who owns the job. So
so obviously that business sets up for your wife, for your kid. It's more than yourself. It's not the selfish like I am, just trying to get jacked. And
So Dan, for you as someone who, I guess out of the three of us been in the off season the longest, what would you say has kind of been like top three things that you've paid attention to the most to get you where you are now?
Paid attention to the most. Sleep. That's been like enormous for me.
Now that you mentioned that, the client was asking me about that, why I train in the morning. I straight up was like, 'cause if I train at night, my sleep's screwed up, and I won't do that. I'm not willing to risk that because of how important it is.
I used to train more in the evening when I was working in the office, but now I've kind of shifted to, because I prefer mornings. I'm not a first thing in the morning. I want to get a meal in, let that digest. But I like the morning training. Yeah. And also you can use caffeine.
Yeah, that's exactly. Like I get up at 6, train at 8, so that's enough time for me to get that pre-meal in and gives me time to like walk the dog for digestion and then take caffeine without it wrecking my sleep schedule. Okay, so
like with the sleep thing, like in the off season, if you're, I guess, more focused on like the balance aspect, like you just kind of have to understand that if you want to go out and go out to whatever bars, it's tough to do now with COVID, but like that's obviously going to impact your sleep schedule. If you want to, chase women at night, then that's going to impact your sleep schedule. It like comes down to like, what do you want to prioritize? Like getting women or recovering for training? Like, so it's like, I mean, really, like,
no, it's 100%. Like as silly as it sounds, it's true, right? Like
you guys are in relationships. I'm single, but yeah.
No, like I have friends who like, they want to hang out or something like that, and I'm straight up like I'm in bed at 9, guys. Like I'm not a night owl at all. I'm very like routine, and like if I'm tired, like it'll be nothing for me to like. It's 7 o'clock now, eat a meal and hit the bed like 8:30 and just get like wound down for the night because. I can't. I'm not a night owl. I've never been. Even when I was like a teenager and stuff at friends' house, I was always the first one to pass out.
See, I used to be the night owl, and I realized it was hurting me. I was shooting myself in the foot by doing it. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have a structured sleep schedule where I go to bed basically the same time every night and get at least 9 hours in bed, hopefully 10, and hopefully at least sleep 8 of those. So, and that's definitely helped me a lot, just managing that.
So sleep's number one. Second point,
managing recovery, let's say, is a good idea. Just with training, I tend to get more into like overreaching issues when I'm actually massing. I find, I don't know why. I think that's kind of counterintuitive, but I think, I mean, you're in a surplus, but you can still only recover from so much. So I think that's good to keep in mind. Ensuring you're recovered from session to session, manipulating your variables appropriately, whether that's, for me, usually set count and volume, but intensity also impacts, and your exercise selection. There's a lot of factors, but keeping a close eye on that can help.
One thing for me, since like actually training again, I've been roasted every set, like every workout the next day, just sore as shit.
Yeah, so I took that week off for vacation, and leading up to that, I've been super busy trying to get everything ready to go on vacation. So it was like a week and a half since I lifted, and I did squats and deadlifts yesterday. Holy shit. Yeah. I finished squatting, and I was like, I'm going to tear a quad. Like, this is not good. Like, I was doing, like, the stanky leg across the gym.
Yeah, I pulled 4 plates. That was my first, like, deadlift play time again, and my lower back for, like, 6 days was like, yeah, you haven't done that in a while, my friend.
I think a good idea in a situation like that, or, like, when you're starting a mesocycle is like in that first week or first sessions back, don't be afraid to scale it back a little bit, especially 100%. In terms of like set count. Like, especially if you're like intermediate advanced bodybuilder, you can tell when you're gonna get destroyed. Like, if you do like, okay, you like have on paper, oh, I'm gonna do 3 sets, and you get through 2, and you're like, oh my, like this is like,
well, that's
oh
where
boy.
I've been, because we've been like doing like very low volume but like high intensity. Yeah. Like I've been doing like top set back off for like most stuff, and it's gotten me good. We did back. What did we do the other day? It was like back and buys, and I think it was like 10 working sets, and I was freaking roasted,
just wrecked.
Yeah, but it was such a good workout though, like unreal.
Yeah.
So now that we're talking about training, let's talk, what's the most productive kind of phase of training you guys have had off-season wise? Because I feel like off-season for me, this time I experimented a lot with a lot of different things, especially working with Brett now. And I feel like we found like a completely different approach to things for me. So like, has that happened with you guys at all? And what was it?
Yeah, like when I was before prep last, mini off season, which again was like 8 months, I was really getting into the like high intensity, low volume approach. A lot of the people I follow have gone into that route, and I started like dabbling into it myself. Like I would do one top set of deadlifts, and then like accessory work. Same with like chest stuff. It was just like very minimal volume. Back would be like 1 or 2 heavy rows, 1 or 2 heavy pull down variations, and it was like that was it. And this past week, like ironing out my routine moving forward, it's kind of based on that, where it's go in, go hard, go out, and just like how I'm feeling and how just my body kind of is already starting to look, just having like a bit of a surplus, getting some like glycogen stores back up, and actually having stimulus again. Like the first time I posted a posing video the other day, and that was the first like thing I'd seen of myself where I was like, okay, this is what we're working with, and I was actually like kind of happy with it. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of merit to like the junk volume and like the sets. The people that do like the 5 sets of 10 and doing a lot of extra stuff, like even like little things. Like I did 2 sets of adductors the other day, and they were roasted for 3 days just because it was like super intense, like very focused, very, basically to failure. And I don't know, it seems to be kind of the way that my body anyway seems to be, enjoying itself, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the big caveat for that is the people that train in that style, yourself included, are towards that more advanced end of the spectrum, where the proper weights, how to push yourself on those sets, where those sets are actually truly effective.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the beginners, when they try and do that, they're saying like, oh, that was RP 9. And it's like, no, dude, you had like 5 left.
Yeah.
So if they try and do that, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, where I think they could do a little bit more volume because they do their first 2 sets and they're like, iffy sets. And then they realize I could do a few more. So that 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th, I don't really like doing 5 sets of anything. Yeah. But if they were, that's when they really get those effective sets in there.
Yep.
But if you don't have them programmed, you won't get there.
Yep. No, I agree. Yeah, it's. I think the more in tune you get with it, the less you almost have to do. You look at a lot of the guys that I follow that train in that manner. Like they'll do like 9 or 10 working sets, which if you tell somebody who's maybe a bit younger, new to the gym, they're like, you only did 9 sets. Like, yeah. He's like, well, I do 30 sets, but it's you're right. Like they need the first 15 sets to actually like get some quality work and activation, and we can do it in 9, right? So it's very different for sure.
Yeah. Dan, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I follow, I think, a little bit of a different methodology. Obviously, there's a lot of ways. I think the point of this is there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. I do like generally running sort of what Renaissance periodization likes to use with starting at a kind of a lower intensity. Like I started about 4 RIR. I know a lot of people like to start at around 3. I just find in that first week I'm just super sensitive to training. Usually after coming off a deload, generally I'm very sensitive. But as the weeks go on, I become less sensitive and scale things up to 0 to 1 and taking it all the way. So I've found that methodology pretty effective. I mean, sometimes my sets get high for certain muscle groups. They get high. And then other muscle groups like legs, if you looked at my, how I progress things, I still progress things like with sets, but I can't add that many sets just because I can't recover from it. I might start them as with, 6 sets of quad work, maybe less, maybe 4 or 5 sometimes. And then end with like 9 in a week, like, and that's it. So, but like delts, I started around 10, and honestly, I scale it until I usually can. I mean, by the end of the mesocycle, usually I can recover from like 25 to 30 direct sets of like side delt work, and I'm just talking just side delt work, like 25, and then another 20 to 25 of like rear delt work. It's like, so I can handle quite a bit, and I'm even recovering from it. Even as I get to like the 0 to 1 RIRs, like, so it's like, I think it depends, and it kind of comes down to finding the approach that works for you. Being able to manage that recovery though, I think is really important. Like if I simply, like, my legs simply couldn't handle the amount of volume that some people are able to put on them. But and if I program my leg work like I did my delt work, I don't know. I think I would just tear everything.
Yeah. The one thing too that I've had to really pay attention to, and I've been on a good run, is like not having joint pain. I like for the longest time, like I'm talking years, like my knees, like talar tendon, man, like scream and yell all the time. It would be rare for me to not have a leg workout go through where like my knees just were not comfortable, and I couldn't crouch, I couldn't like kneel without it being like severely uncomfortable. If I bent down to like tie up my shoe and my knee was on a hard surface, it was very uncomfortable. But jeez. I would say, it was like very, very not fun. But the last 7-8 months, we've been on a good run of like very minimal to no like uncomfortable pain. That's knee, that's shoulder, that's everything. So that, I think that comes down to, like you said, recovery, being smart with sleep, knowing when to give my body rest, and probably getting rid of extra volume that was just a waste of time and causing me more pain than anything. So I agree with the volume.
Yeah, and I think also from an individual perspective, being deliberate about exercise selection as well, and not just using the same exercises that you might see somebody on Instagram doing or your favorite person doing. There's a lot of different variations. There's different grips, there's a lot of ways that you can kind of avoid joint pain from my perspective in that. Like, if you consider an upright row, and I've been putting off doing a post on this for a while, but like a lot of people take a really, really narrow grip on an upright row, that just terrorizes my shoulders, like terrorizes. But I take a wider grip and it's like, oh, this is butter. I have a friend that's the exact opposite. I said, he said, oh, I can't do upright rows. I'm like, okay, what grips have you tried? I'm like, and I took him through the grips. I had him go wide like I did. He's like, nope. And I had him go super narrow. He's like, wow, oh my God. He's like pulling all the, like, as hot, like all the way up to his forehead. And it's like, man, this is amazing. This pump is ridiculous. I'm like, I mean, if I pulled like that, I upright rode like that, my shoulders would be screaming. So it's like, I think being smart about that, and almost taking that feedback that you get in the movements that you're using, and just being wise about variations. And you might find for some movements, you might find a wide range of variations that you can use. I mean, the same with like stance width in a squat. Like, I can't squat with a wide stance. My hips just don't. don't move well. I can squat very, very deep in a narrow stance. Hell, I can put my feet completely together and basically squat ass to grass, but not everyone can do that. So it's like,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, James, you probably have some thoughts on that as a physical therapist.
Well, I mean, there's a huge range of normal. I kind of talked about it in the podcast when I was on with Connor. I mean, if you look at just the bony structure of cadavers and all these different studies, there's a specific to the hip. Now the number might not be exact, but I think there's about 30 degrees of difference from one person to the other that could be considered normal, whether they're rotated forward or rotated backwards. And that's why some people need to toe out versus they can stay, perfectly parallel. And it's what they have. So you can't force someone to do one stance if their structure doesn't allow for it, because then you're asking for issues. So yeah, it should just, and the big thing I hit on with him was pick something that works for you and control it. So it might not be the most ideal form by the textbook, but if you're not moving under that load, the joints that you don't want to, then you're probably safer. And what I mean by that is like the deadlift. If you have a slightly kyphotic back, or your hips aren't in the perfect ideal position, but you can keep them in that position under the load while you're moving through the range, it's probably fine. What you don't want to do is allow yourself to move under that load, because then you're under a slightly higher risk.
Yes.
Makes sense. Yeah, I could go on all day for that.
Yeah, those are all good points. And in terms of like the squatting thing, like who was it that put out? It was Juggernaut Training Systems with Quinn Heddick put out a great video on that. If anyone's interested in kind of seeing it in practice, because they took a few of their athletes through a hip joint test and saw basically where their or how their hips move, and why they prefer the stance that they prefer. So
yeah, and there are a couple quick assessments that you can do if you know someone that's trained in doing it to find your stance. What I normally have people do is lay back on a table, and I actually will just guide their leg right on up, and I take them narrow and kind of push straight forward, see where their end range is, where they say that's as far as I can go, or I can feel that's as far as they go.
Yeah.
And then I'll kind of bring them out, and we just guide them through the whole range of motion. You find all right, that feels comfortable. I can go full range.
And that's exactly what they did with Juggernaut Training Systems. Yep, that's exactly the assessment they took them through.
Yeah, so you can see, and you can tell someone, you haven't been able to go low, because if you're in this stance, you can see where you have to stop. And as soon as you come here, you can go so much farther, as one example. And it might be the exact opposite for someone.
Exactly, and if you try to emulate your favorite lifter or favorite person, like you might have, it might hurt you. So, like, I don't know. Like, I guess the conventional thing on squats is, just take a stance just outside of shoulder width. It's like, that's probably a good starting point for most, but it might not be a good, if you try to force that, might be trying to pound a square peg into a round hole.
Which is never fun. Doesn't work.
Not fun.
Anything else, man, before we wrap this up, as far as like if you could give, myself, I guess, for my first real off season to make it as productive as possible, what should I really kind of nail on?
I mean, I guess I am supposed to give a third, but I don't know. I think just being consistent is a good idea. I mean, it's easy to kind of, as you're not, seeing new lines and all that cool stuff, like to kind of, I don't know, just get bored with it. Yeah, like, okay, this isn't as cool. Like, you're not as motivated. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's just, I think if you can, stay the course, commit to putting weight on, looking maybe a little bit fluffier, I think that's good. And if you can, manage all your variables of sleep, recovery, training, food, it's not the sexy stuff all the time. Like, it's.
What am I gonna post? It's all throwback Thursday.
Yeah.
The only day you post is Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once a week posting.
Yeah. No, Dan, I think you hit it right on the head there. I think the consistency and the recovery are the two big thing, and I think they're very interrelated. Because if you can recover, you can continue. And if you can't recover, you're not going to be able to continue training that way. So your training, intensity, style, split, all those things are factors that should follow your recovery. And if you're finding you can't recover from a specific split, you need to change it because you're not working.
And also, if you're consistent too, you can kind of know where your recovery is at. If you're not consistent, like you could be like, okay, did I do too much, or did I not sleep enough, or did I not eat enough? Did I if you're consistent in what you do, like you could kind of be like, you get a good idea, get a good grasp of what you need to do to recover as well. You have a good idea, a good sense of what's going on, I guess.
Yep.
Rather than just randomly doing things and,
hoping it works.
Yeah.
We'll find out in a year and a half, I guess.
Okay, so you got to tell me you were saying you're still kind of figuring out when your shows would be. What are you kind of leaning towards? Because we might line up.
So 2022. So I would like to do the IMBF Natural USA again. That's the one that I came second in. So I'd like to go back there with a bit of a vengeance and chip on my shoulder.
What month do they run that show usually?
That's April.
April, okay.
And then so I'd like to do an OCB show. I'd like to do. He wants me to stay in bodybuilding, which I thought was kind of cool, and not do classic. And then an IPE show would be kind of cool. Cliff said that he thinks that like the judging would favor my physique just with how I'm built. He thinks that I would fit well there. From his understanding, the WMBF is more like they want to see you a bit more and kind of make you work for it a little bit, which is fine. That's something that I have no issues with. So I'd like to do a couple different federations and just see where it lands, and then go from there.
So obviously you're chasing a card. Are you mostly chasing WNBF or all of them? Any and all?
All of the cards. WNBF would be the main one. If you made me pick one, it would be that one.
That's what I'm trying to target the same thing with WNBF. So next time around.
Oh boy, let's go.
I might have a later prep though, because I have my OCB card. So I'm looking at. I want to do the Yorton. So
when's that?
That's like September. August timeline. I think they moved it, but yeah, I mean they could move it again. So, but I know it's later in the year. So, but
oh, buddy, let's go.
So we can still line up though. I don't know what exact shows I'm doing yet. So,
can't wait. I can guarantee I will not be competing in 2022. If I make a run at it 2021, I'm taking some time because I intend 2021 to be as many shows as physically possible. So we're gonna do it.
I love it.
Do the thing.
You gotta come up here.
I'm not bulking until I get a pro card somewhere.
You gotta come up to Canadian land and play up here.
You never know.
Is your show a pro qualifier?
Mine?
You right? Yeah.
Ooh, naughty. The first pro card given out? Ooh.
September 21, baby. Let's go.
We'll see. Hopefully by then I would have one because I plan on like 3 or 4 shows before then. But you know what? Who knows?
Maybe you can make your pro debut. If you get a WNBF card, you got to compete the same year, man.
That's right. They do make you compete.
Yeah, that's why Connor and Breton were all freaked out this year because they thought they were going to lose their pro status because this was their only chance. But they're carrying all pro statuses into 21, so they're good.
That's good. They did the right thing there. But at least they did it early rather than having them like 2 weeks out. Like, your show's not going to happen.
Yeah, the promoter called all 3 of us and told us what was up.
Oh, that's called you personally? Oh, that's class.
Yeah, well, and like he knew, like the 3 of us, like obviously we're very public about our prep, and the 3 of us together were kind of promoting each other. So it wasn't any surprise that the 3 of us were heading to Edmonton. So I think he was like, okay, I need to at least let these 3 know pretty quick what the hell's going on, right? So yeah. All right, dudes. Appreciate it as always.